watching Goal.com's mid-season review, discussing the biggest clubs in Europe. Up for discussion, Manchester City, the English Premier League champions, but it's not gone quite so well, certainly on the European front, dumped out the Champions League. Matt, is Mancini losing control of the players?
I think it's a difficult one. I think what we've seen with Mancini is that he's singled out players for criticism openly in the press, which you don't tend to get from managers. Balotellis had it, Tevez has had it, Lescott's had it. Individual players have been, slaughtered and condemned openly in the press, and I think that as an individual, certainly as a player, that's not something that I would enjoy, and I think that can be a problem inside the dressing room. You wouldn't see Sir Alex Ferguson, I don't think, criticising his players openly in public. I think that in the dressing room, that's different. That's what happens in the dressing room, stays in the dressing room, and everyone accepts criticism when they've done something wrong. But when the manager starts sort of going out publicly and saying it, I think that in the dressing room then he perhaps starts losing individuals because of that.
Peter, Mancini is probably the main talking point for City. His future, does he have one beyond the end of the season?
Well, he signed a 5-year contract in the summer, but that's not to say that he has any job security right there at Manchester City at the moment. I think the next step after winning the Premier League, should I say, is winning the Champions League. And under Roberto Mancini, that will never happen for Manchester City. The performances in Europe have been really, really poor this season, even against the likes of Ajax, who are paupers compared to Manchester City. And I think, as Matt says, this haranguing of players in public is a smokescreen for Mancini's own failings. He's got it wrong tactically in the Champions League, and he also got it very, very wrong in the summer transfer market.
I mean, as you said, Pete, City spent a lot of money. Sheikh Mansour spent £1 billion on building the City squad, and the Champions League is the ultimate goal. They want to dominate European football, the world football. That's why they're building this huge academy. They're looking at expanding the stadium. They're really ambitious. What reined them in the summer over transfers was UEFA's financial fair play rules. That's a big part of their thinking. They're not going to spend the money that they did in the first few years under the Abu Dhabi owners. But what they're looking towards instead is the Barcelona model. They brought in Chiqui Begiristain as director of football. Ferran Soriano is the new chief executive. These are the guys who appointed Guardiola at Barcelona and turned Barcelona into the biggest, most successful club in modern football.
The biggest miss in the summer was Robin van Persie. The fact that he's gone to their closest rivals, geographically and in terms of the league as well, was a massive problem for them. He's the one that's made a difference for United in big games. So losing him in the summer, or missing out on him, was a problem. The players that they did bring in aren't necessarily players that have made a big impact either. Rodwell, Scott Sinclair, Garcia in midfield. None of them have really made any sort of an impression on the first team. If you're a Man City and you're going out to bring players in, they've got to be good enough to get into your first team. He didn't do that in the summer.
Who can he get then? Who does he want? Who can he get?
Well, the January transfer market around Manchester City, I would say, would be a quiet place. It doesn't seem apparent that they're going to make any big statement signings, and I think it could be more outgoings than incomings at the Etihad over the course of the winter. One man who could be on his way out is Mario Balotelli, who's been given 3 weeks to save his Manchester City career. His performances for a £20 million player have been inexplicably poor at times, and he does look a different player for Man City than he does with Italy. And I think everybody other than Mancini seems to be a little bit fed up of his antics at the moment.
I think they're giving up on Balotelli more or less now. I think the player himself, he's so difficult to handle for Mancini. He has spent half his day looking after Balotelli by the sound of things. The player himself wants to go back to Italy to play for Milan. PSG have also been interested, and you just feel like it's coming to an end. And City, it's more or less going to be a one-in, one-out policy. So if Balotelli does leave, maybe they'll look at signing another striker. But the problem is, how do you get the club to part with 20-odd million for Balotelli, because they want as much of their money back as possible, and they spent 24 million to sign him in the first place.
So Matt, just sum up Man City for us, obviously out of Europe, but still got the title race in England.
Yeah, and being out of Europe might well help them in terms of the title race. I still think they've probably got the strongest overall squad. They overcame a deficit last season to win the title, so there's no reason why they can't do it again this year. What I would say about them is the style of play. I think that at times they do play a little bit narrow. I think they need to try and bring a bit more width into their team, but being out of Europe might help them in the title race. But
as you say, they've got the squad, they've got the players, but they still can't attract the marquee signings, the real big ones.
Well, they didn't in the summer. They missed out on a couple of key targets. I mentioned Van Persie already. Hazard as well could quite easily have gone there. Mancini wanted him. He didn't get the signings that he wanted through the door, which has probably meant they've gone out of Europe. But in terms of the title race, they've still got the quality to win it. Tevez and Aguero is still a great partnership. Dzeko off the bench. They've got goals in the team, so they've still got a great chance in terms of the Premier League.
Thanks, guys. That's Manchester City dealt with. The Premier League champions still in the title race out of Europe. Sure to be interesting in the transfer window. For all the latest news on that and all the analysis, go to goal.com.